So I don't know if anybody out there's been anybody out there with an '80s kid or a '70s kid or remember that movie Willow from like way way back? I think it was like 1988 or something with that Warwick Davis. A little midget with the normal size head, of course, a little tiny body. He played, I think it was C-3PO and that Ewok in Return of the Jedi, the little tiny one that got a lot of screen time. Yeah, they did that movie Willow. I liked that movie. It wasn't a great movie, but I liked it. It was okay though. Kind of became like a cult classic. Well, Disney has made a spin-off of it, and the only reason I'm talking about it now is because we only got Sith in the room, so I don't have a lot of back and forth, unfortunately, with my fans these days. So, yeah, but it really shocked me, this show. I decided to rewatch the movie Willow right before it came out because I planned on watching the TV show. The movie was good. It held up to the test of time. I liked seeing it again and seen it in years. And then I watched the first and second episode of the TV show Willow, and boy, oh boy, was I shocked at just how bad it was. It was fucking atrocious. Oh my God. What a horrible show this was. It was the worst thing I've ever, well, I don't know if it's the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's the worst thing I've seen in a long fucking time. I suppose if I had watched that She-Hulk, I would, be saying it was worse than She-Hulk, which it apparently is, because it's getting a lower score. I think it's like 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's the audience score. It's horrible! Holy shit! Number one, I think Warwick Davis forgot how to act. I remember him from Willow, and he did a pretty good job in that, but he's doing a horrible job here. He's just phoning in his performance. He's very halting in his speech. It's very, very obviously acted. He's not very genuine in his performance. He doesn't seem to really want to be there. Everybody, in fact, in this show are horrible actors. And the representations of the characters they're playing are, for the most part, horrible human beings. So the show is called Willow, but it doesn't in any way, shape, or form focus on him. Instead, the show focuses on these two lesbo broads. One mulatto broad with red hair. I don't know if her red hair is actual red hair, or she's just coloring her hair red to, appear exotic and interesting and different. Whatever the case might be, you got a mulatto broad who's supposedly a knight, basically a squire, becoming a squire, a knight in training. Yeah. Because female knights were such a big thing in medieval times, right? And then you got the princess who's like a, just this insufferable cow of a girl, woman, whatever. They didn't get the timelines right, by the way. This show is supposedly happening like 20 years after the movie, but it's been like 40 years or something. So automatically I got the timelines way off, and I don't see why they couldn't have done it so that the amount of time that had passed since the movie and the amount of time in the show matched up, but hey, whatever. Then they would have had to make characters that were like 30 plus, in regards to the children of, Sorsha, the daughter of Bavmorda, who was the big baddie in the movie. So anyway, it's horrid. It starts out with two broads fighting each other, poorly I might add, and I know because, I've been practicing the sword for like 40 years. It was horrific. And it turns out they're munching each other's muffs. So you've got Bavmorda's daughter, supposedly 20 years older now, but she's walking around with a fucking cane, has a limp. She's clearly an invalid who has aged way more than 20 years. But again, let's pretend only 20 years passed. So you got the two broads munching each other's muffs. The female character is insufferable. She's horrific. That's the princess. The prince, the daughter of Saoirse and Mad Mardigan is, of course, a weakling. He's like this, perfumed, ponce, skinny, spindly soy boy who's supposed to be a really good fighter, but in like the first, 20 minutes of the movie, he gets abducted for I don't know what reason. Mad Mardigan isn't even in the show. They barely even mention him. It turns out he's like a deadbeat dad. He just vanished at some point. His dad completely disappeared. So Mad Mardigan isn't even a thing in this show. Which he couldn't. I mean, they could have recast him. Okay, I know Val Kilmer is a gimp now. He's, all fucked up from his fight with cancer, which he may or may not have won. Maybe it's in remission. Maybe they actually got rid of it. But they also got rid of most of his throat and voice box, so he sounds like this, and he has to use a fucking vocalizer to speak. So he couldn't play Mad Mardigan, even if he did have his voice. He'd be too old and fat and out of shape. But they're going to recast him. But no, we're going to label him a deadbeat dad, and he just disappeared and left his kids. Because, female empowerment, women are great, and men suck. So the entire show focuses around these two fucking lesbo broads, the princess and this, wannabe knight. They're horrible characters. They're like a plank of wood. They have, just no real appeal. There's no real emoting going on. They're obviously acting. They're horrible actors. I don't know what acting skills these people went to school at, but they got these people from the bargain bin of actors. I mean, let's be honest here. Whoever is at Disney hiring actors or deciding who gets cast, they were told to save money. You gotta save money, yo! We're losing money. That Buzz Lightyear movie, that flopped, and, everything that we've been making has flopped, and we're losing tons of cash, and our stock price just went in the toilet. So, if you're going to cast people for this Willow thing, you got to cast people that nobody's ever heard of. I mean, except for Warwick Davis, but when was the last time he did anything? Has he done anything in the past 10, 15 years? I mean, you don't need fucking midgets anymore for hobbits and dwarfs and shit. You can CGI it, so midgets aren't getting too much work. So, Warwick Davis, he's a lot of practice, but, he's still like, I don't know, is he a celebrity anymore? I don't think so. But he's at least a name. He at least has a history. We're going to have to pay him a bundle of money. 10 years ago it wouldn't have been a bundle for Disney, but all the money they've lost on their woke crapola going on down there in Florida and everywhere else in the movies they're producing where, apparently 3% of the population, gays and homos, have to be overly represented to where the whole fucking movie revolves around these people. So, we got to save money. So we got to cast nobodies. So they cast a bunch of nobodies. It takes like fucking half an hour, 40 minutes just to get to where Willow actually appears. It's the end of the actual episode. And then Willow pops up in a show called Willow. And oh boy, do they bastardize this poor fucking guy. I mean, first of all, they turned him into a weakling. And they changed all the rules around magic. I mean, if you saw the actual movie Willow, you had a sorceress named Finn Rizal. You had Bev Morta. At the end, they had this epic fight scene where they were throwing spells at each other. And by the way, I think that could have been done better. But Ron Howard had a limited budget, and they didn't have CGI back then. It wasn't as long a spell battle as that I would have liked, but it was still pretty engaging. And nowhere during that fight was Bev Morta dropping. Like, she casts one spell and she's exhausted. Nowhere during that fight was Finn Rizal just, throwing a fireball or casting an ice storm spell and she's dropping to the ground in exhaustion. That's not happening. But Willow, he can't use magic, apparently. He's trying to teach, Alora Dannon, who's supposedly the great fucking mythic savior. She's the Jesus of the story, basically, who has been working like 20 years as a kitchen maid. She makes great muffins, but nobody knows that she's the empress of the fucking world. So now the baby from the movie is all grown up, and she's been hidden by Sorsha and Mad Mardigan before he became a deadbeat dad and disappeared in the kitchens, and they used magic to hide her, little symbol on her arm that she was born with, the sign that shows she's the chosen one. She's baking muffins. Why nobody could know who she was, I guess there's a certain level of logic to hiding her identity, though I don't know why she didn't have any guards. They could have put a guard well, then again, that might have pointed people toward the kitchens. Hey, look, why is there a guard at the kitchen? There must be somebody important in there. I don't know, but she's allowed to run around, basically. She's like the most important person in the fucking world, but apparently she just runs around, goes wherever she wants, does whatever she wants in a very dangerous world, and nobody seems to care. At least not the people who actually know her true identity and are hiding her identity to keep her safe, but they let her just trolley-da-dee-da all over the fucking place, and they don't care a lick about her safety. So, yeah, there's not a lot of logic in this show, and she's in love with the soy boy, weakling, spindly prince, son of Mad Mardigan, who gets kidnapped, and that's why she follows the, group of people who are sent to find Mad Mardigan. People like the princess, who I would think would be super important, but apparently not. She's got a whole army at her disposal, this Queen Sorcerer, but she sends, like 6 people, 5 people, and then tells them to go find Willow, a sorcerer, who she apparently has a very low opinion of, and told would never be a great sorcerer, and mocked and ridiculed him at one point, making him break off all contact with her and Laura Danon, basically mocking him about the pig trick thing and telling him he'd never be a great sorcerer, and essentially doing as much as she could to humiliate him. And that seems to be the goal of this whole fucking show. I don't think I want to go through every fucking episode. It's up to an episode 4 right now, and it's just horrible. It's pathetic. But what this show has went out of its way to do is humiliate not just Willow, who's supposed to be the main character. I mean, the show is named after him, but he's rarely ever in the show. He doesn't do any magic until like the end of the 3rd episode. And they make fun of and belittle every man. The prince from Galadorn, which was supposed to marry Sorcerer's daughter, whose name I can't remember because she's so insufferable I don't even want to listen to her, and I fast forward to any scene she's in, is a spindly weakling. Really smart, supposedly, but a weakling. Because apparently you can't be strong and manly and also intelligent. So you got to pick one. Chad dummy or, really intelligent and weak. All the women in the show are brave and amazing and just as strong as a man, even stronger, in fact. And the men are idiots. The men are idiots. They're doddering fools. They're old, because Willow's old now, apparently, and can't do magic so well because he's old, even though Finn Rizal was much older, and so was Bavmorda, and they were tossing around magic like, they were you're playing to get a catch, but whatever. So, I'm not even going to go through each episode. It's horrific. It's just a series of stupid choices, stupid decisions. The fucking Laura Danon joins their troop of motley misfits sent to rescue the brother, even though the queen has a fucking army, but she sends her own daughter. Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of fucking sense, yo. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. At one point, the queen, I think at one point they did a flashback that was like 10 years prior. They went back in time 10 years in the timeline to when the show is actually supposed to be happening, which is 20 years since the movie. And they do a 10-year flashback back in time. And Willow, they show him trying to, get Laura Danon to go with him so he can train her in magic, because she's supposed to be the penultimate sorceress. At least she has the talent to be a sorceress, the most powerful in the world, and that's why she was supposed to die. That's why Bavmorda wanted her dead, and that's why the main baddie in this show, called the Crone, who was supposedly, the person who was responsible for the training of Bavmorda and was her master, which we heard nothing about from the movie, but whatever. Wants her dead as well, because she could become powerful enough to defeat the Crone. Not Willow, of course, because he's too white and he's too male. Yeah, he's a midget, but that doesn't counteract the other 2 ticks against him. He's man and he's white, so we can't have him be the hero of the story. It's got to be a woman no matter what, and since he's not a woman, it doesn't matter that he's a midget and fits into some kind of oppressed, marginalized class. Not enough on the identity politics scale to qualify him to be the star of the show. So he's got to be relegated to a supporting role, even though the show is named after him. So, this motley crew of misfits is sent on this fucking quest. The Laura Danon goes with them. Willow recognizes her, even though now she has blonde hair. I don't know how that happens. The baby had red hair. Her hair suddenly went blonde. They tried to explain it in the show and say that, some beetles, some kind of weird extract where beetles are crunched up in a fucking bowl and it's mixed into a fucking hair dye, which doesn't make any sense because, even if that's the case, her eyebrows are blonde. And by the way, even if she had just gotten her hair dyed from red to blonde, which wouldn't work because you can't dye hair a lighter color. You have to bleach it first and then change the color if you're going lighter. If you're going darker, you can dye it, but you can't dye hair lighter. But anyway, let's forget about reality. There has to be some kind of bleaching agent involved before you lighten hair, but whatever. So she's on this journey. Wouldn't there be roots? I mean, weeks have passed. You're going to have weeks, months. By the end of the show, you should see red roots. But no. No reality in this show, even though we have to interject contemporary political views and contemporary speech into this fucking show because it's got to be representative. It's got to represent the world that we live in. minus logic and reason. This show is so horrible. So, la-di-da, they go through a bunch of stupid adventures. Most of the show up to episode 4 is filler. I don't even have to go into detail about this fucking thing. But the queen sends her only daughter and princess on this trip, without much in the way of protection, instead of her army that she has at her disposal, even though in that flashback 10 years prior, when Willow tried to take Elora Danan so he could train her, which also the queen is against for some reason, the savior of the world, who's going to be the most powerful sorceress, so say the prophecies, well, you can't train her in magic, even though she's supposed to use magic to defeat the big baddie, so says the prophecy, but I don't want her to learn her magic, because, I'm against magic, because my mother was a sorceress, and she was evil. Hence, if you learn magic, you're evil, even though Willow's a sorcerer, but he's not evil. But whatever. She said that when she caught Willow trying to take Elora, that what do you think? You think you could take her and I wouldn't send the entire Tirisleen army after you? So let me get this straight. You're sending your daughter on a fucking, what is essentially a suicide mission to save your son. So you're sending like 5 people, but to essentially get back this kid who isn't even yours, you'd send the whole army. It doesn't make any sense. There's no logical consistency in this show. So Willow tries to teach Elora Danan magic. It doesn't work. Initially, she can't say the word. She's fucking up. She's supposed to grow like a tree. At one point, she asked Willow if you can make food from magic, and he's like, no, don't try that. I spent a week in a latrine. And a lot of people were like saying, oh, look, Willow's saying if she grows this tree using magic that they'll be able to eat from the tree. But he said you can't create food from that tree, so that's a contradiction. Not actually. Because the magic would be used to make the seeds grow into a tree. It would just be accelerating the process of their growth, but it wouldn't be created from nothing using magic. So that's not actually the case. It's not an actual contradiction. You're just not understanding the source material, and of course the show doesn't understand the source material either, because the way that they depicted magic is in no way, shape, or form matching up to the way that magic was essentially portrayed in the movie. So you can't teach her. She doesn't learn. Eventually she does make the tree grow, but only after she gets knocked out, after she's left alone in this glade, because they're being followed by a bunch of monster dudes who essentially were created from some kind of goo from the big baddies that took the brother early on in the episode, which is why they're on this mission in the first place, called the Gales. Apparently they can just touch someone and make of this uber powerful demon possessed dude. I don't know why they just didn't run around the countryside infecting everybody with this fucking goo. They'd have 10,000 demon possessed people that were now monsters, and they could just conquer Galadorn and Tirisleen. That's the 2 main kingdoms in this show that we know of. Those were also in the movie. So a little callback nostalgically to the movie. And so you get these 3 bad demon-possessed dudes chasing them. And what do the party that are with Elora Danan, and they know who she is, and know she's the most important person in the world, what do? Well, they leave her alone all the time. Because that's what you do with the most important person in the world, who has no real ability to defend themselves at this point. You leave them alone all the time so they can get abducted. Because you need that. You need that to happen so the show can move forward, so that something's going to be happening, because otherwise nothing would be happening, because the writers in this show suck ass. They're like the worst fucking writers. And the dialogue's horrible. The dialogue in this show is the worst. It's like all contemporary stuff. Dude, man, bro. It's like, what the fuck? This is a fantasy show? Sounds like downtown New York. A bunch of 14-year-old kids talking to each other, or dude bros in a gym, chit-chatting. What the fuck is this? It was ridiculous. I thought I was in a gender studies class at a university or something. The way these people are talking, this contemporary speech, it's so annoying. And then finally at episode 3, they catch up to the girl, Elora Danan, who at this point can't do any magic, and has had no actual training, except Willow told her a few words for a seed charm to grow a tree. That's all she's learned. And he finally uses magic when he has no choice, when his, little midget bodyguard that's accompanying them dies. Yeah, that finally gets him to use magic. By the way, he says he can heal the dude, but he doesn't heal him because he needs to save his magic. because he's so weak and pathetic. He can't actually do much magic, and any magic that he does seriously drains him. Because again, he can't be the center of attention on this show. He can't be really powerful. He can't outshine the woman, the future, Karen, Mary Sue, that is going to be and is Lord Dannon. You can't have that. Yeah, the show was named after him, but he can't outshine anybody. He's got to be the lowest rung on the fucking totem pole. We ignore him as much as humanly possible. And when he does finally use magic, he collapses. He's completely exhausted, and the way he puts it, and they're very, very vague on this, that, if I use too much magic, I'll never be able to get it back, which is bullshit. You rest, and then you recover. But he doesn't heal his little friend, so his little friend dies, so Willow's evil. Willow's horrible. Willow is atrocious. He lets his friend die, even though he could have healed him and saved him. Oh, yeah. And then the show goes into a filler episode for episode 4, where they essentially end up at Nockmaar, which is the Bavmorda's castle from the movie, and they go there to get, refuge from the fucking rain, because, rain is a deadly thing now, and you enter these enchanted, cursed palaces and castles that'll fuck you up and kill you because of the residual magic left over from all the evil rituals that happen in them, but, escape the rain. So it's gotta be acid rain, right? Even though in this world, acid rain ain't gonna fucking melt you. Like the Wicked Witch of the West. But apparently they had to go in there, because they needed more filler. Because this has got to be a multi-season fucking show, don't you know? And, hijinks ensue. Willow tells him not to go into the high tower, where there's a portal to an evil dimension that Bavmorda went to. So, of course, they end up there. Goofball, weakling, spindly dude is cursed to become a demon with the same goo that made the 3 dudes that Willow blasted away with magic that nearly killed him, were also changed into. And, of course, he becomes a demon. He becomes a servant of darkness and escapes the change that they locked him up in. And Willow's not able to cure him. But apparently Lord Dannon, who's had no training in magic, heals him. And banishes the demon in him. Because, just like Rey Skywalker in those horrible Star Wars movies, people have no training whatsoever. They can do miracles. If they're women, not if they're men. Willow tried to use magic in this episode once, and he collapsed again. Because he's a weakling. He's a pussy. He's pathetic. Plot needs him to stay a weakling and pathetic. Because, as modern feminism says, gotta bring men down to raise women up. We can't have an equal playing field. We can't have the man shining, because if he shines, he's going to outshine the woman, because we really know deep down that we can't compete on an even level with the men, or we're so insecure that we don't want to do that, so we got to bring him down. So, Willow is still a weakling as of episode 4, who can barely do magic. He's not a great sorcerer, just as Sorsha said, because if he was a great sorcerer, he could do more than one spell in a row without nearly dying from exhaustion. But Lord Dannon, she's able to exorcise that demon from that man with no training, no magic, no teaching in magic, and she doesn't collapse. Because, women aren't weak and pathetic like men. So there you go. That's the show Willow. It's horrific. It's atrocious. The men are portrayed as bumbling idiots. It's just like watching Everybody Loves Raymond all over again, except, times 10. Willow has no real magic to speak of. I mean, he does one spell and he's out of the game. The women are brave and awesome and powerful, even though for some reason they're predicted as the most insufferable, unlikable people on the planet. And I don't know what it is with these women that are on these shows, or these soy boy male feminists, but for some reason they portray the female characters as the most horrible, despicable human beings on the planet, and they think that's a good thing. Because it's empowerment, right? Because that's what men are really like. Well, I guess that's what feminists actually do. They suffer from penis envy, and then they take all of the traits that they say they supposedly hate and despise in men, and they just graft them onto women and say, ooh, she's brave and powerful, strong and independent. Yeah. Traits that you hate in a man and label as toxic. So there you go. That's Willow. Watch it if you will. I'm watching it simply because I was a fan of the movie, and I want to see just how bad this dumpster fire gets. It's apparently going to get pretty fucking bad. I wonder how many times they're going to contradict the whole thing where Willow is totally pathetically the weakest sorcerer on the planet. He can cast one spell and collapse. So they're going to contradict that. Moving forward, is Willow somehow going to get stronger now that he's using magic again and he's able to cast more than one spell without collapsing like the weakling that they portray him to be? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and please like and subscribe to my BitChute channel, bitchute.com/The Realist Philosopher, bitchute.com/The Realist Philosopher. Go check it out. Let me know what you think of Willow or whatever else. So, yeah, that's all I got to say on that subject.